With the help of Hashem, we are learning Yoma Daf Yud Gimel. We will start in today's daf learning about the opinion of Rebbe Yehuda that we have on the Mishnah Daf Beis, that says that we have to prepare a backup wife in case the current wife of the Kohen Gadol passes away. And this is based on the pasuk that what the Kohen Gadol does in his avodah on Yom Kippur is to achieve kapara for him and for his house, and the meaning of his house means for his wife. So you see that he has to have a wife, and what would happen if, God forbid, his wife will pass away? So there's a backup wife. Now, first, the Gemara is going to focus on what's the machloikas between the Tanach, the Chachamim, that don't hold that you have to have a backup wife. But they do hold that you have to have a backup Kohen Gadol. So we already mentioned it Bekitzer, and we're going to have a little bit more that, there's levels of possibilities, more likely, less likely. You can say there's percentages, higher percentage you have to be chayish for, you have to take into account something that is less possible or something that you do not have to take into account. We're going to work that out. And there's a beautiful back and forth in the beginning, but the bulk of today's daf will have the following beautiful question, and there's going to be 10 steps to get to the answer. Question is like this. Based on the premise that beisoi, which is the word that we use, that he has to have a house, a wife, doesn't only mean that he has to be married. It means he has to be married to one wife. Beisoi b'loshen yachid. Based on that premise, now we have a problem. So he has a backup wife. Well, if he fully marries her, then he has two wives, two batim. Not two batim is not good. So exactly how do we achieve our goal? Another detail that the Gemara doesn't even speak out, the Rishonim, Tosfos speaks out, and other Rishonim, to have a wife that he will only marry during Yom Kippur is not acceptable. That's going to be the big Tosfos that we have on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis. Either there's a whole issue of making a kinyan on Shabbos, that does not allow one to get married on Shabbos and on Yom Kippur, which is Shabbos Shabbosin. There is another technical issue of if the wife, God forbid, passes away sometime in middle of the Avodah. Can you imagine? He's in the Kodesh HaKodshim. And what he's going to go out in the middle and get married? Doesn't work. It's technically not viable. So he's going to have to marry the second wife. It's not good. It's going to be amazing. So we're going to go into 4 possibilities. We're going to rule one out. We're going to have to deal with every step with possibility A, B, and C. Basically, what's going to need to happen is that he's going to have to marry the backup wife, but he's going to have to give to one or to both a conditional get, which will also go into this whole concept of conditional gitin. What condition is a valid condition? What condition is b'chlal not a valid condition? B'chlal, there's conditions that only go into effect from when the condition was met and forward, mikanu lahaba, but then you have conditions that if they are verbalized in the right way, almanas, then they go back retroactive. So it's going to be some sort of retroactive condition, which will somehow achieve the goal that no matter what happens, he will always be married only to one wife, but he'll be married to one wife. And we're going to go through 10 steps to get to the way this could and this needs to be achieved. And then if we'll have time on Daf Yud Gimel Amud Beis, it's a small daf, we can learn it slowly to fully understand this whole trip that we're going to go on. But at the end of this whole sugya, we're going to start speaking about the unique halachas of aninus for a Kohen Gadol. Aninus meaning that there is the general concept of a person being in a state of mourning, but there are levels to mourning. The highest level, the acute mourning, is the day that one of the 7 relatives passed away. The 7 relatives is, God forbid, one's father, mother, brother, sister, son, daughter, spouse. Another machloikas tanoim that we're not even going to mention explicitly about today, but we always see it. How far into after the passing is someone in the status of an oinen? For sure, on the day of the passing, does the status of aninus go to the night? Was the burial during the day? Was the burial not during the day? Aninus by Laila is midoraisa or midrabanan. We're going to learn one shita. It's going to come up just to clarify. We're going to go according to the shita that aninus is only by yom midoraisa. And if the burial happened by yom, then there is no biblical obligation to mourn in the way of an oinan. But whenever a kohen is in a state of aninus, the kohen may not do the avodah. And what is unique to a kohen gadol is that he does the avodah even in a state of aninus. That will be the whole nekuda that we'll have all the way up until the Mishnah on Daf Yudalid Benegeya Aninus. But let's come back and start learning and really going through the details of exactly how the backup wife will work in a effective way. So we're starting on 5th line from the top of the Amid. The Gemara by the two dots is referring back to the Mishnah. Rabbi Yehuda not only agrees, like everyone does, that there has to be a backup Kohen Gadol, but also Af Isha Achas Maskinan Loi. Isha Acheres, a backup wife. Says the Gemara, hold on, the Rabbanan, why would the Rabbanan not agree with that? Now, we already mentioned it in the beginning, but really this question is just a build-up to ask a very strong question. The Rabbanan nami hachayish l'shema, v'haraya, the Rabbanan hold that you have a backup Kohen Gadol. Now, this Kohen Gadol is going to do everything he could, right, not to become Tamei. But it could happen. Well, that means that we have to take into account possibilities. So, why is this different than that? So, it must be, Amalach Rabbanan, Tuma shechicha, Misa loy shechicha. Guys, this is very important. I know it's obvious and I know that we mentioned it. But as we will see, all as a build-up to the whole 10 steps in the Rabbi Yehuda, that there are certain possibilities that we never have to be concerned about. Remember that. I'll repeat this, how that's negated to Rabbi Yehuda. Amrulai. Now the Chachamim don't tell Rabbi Yehuda, Stam, that Misa lo shchicha. That no. What they told Rabbi Yehuda in the Mishnah is, if you are taking into account a lesser possibility of someone's spouse, God forbid, passing away, and parenthetically, the Rabbanan will be moided that if the Kohen Gadol's wife, God forbid, is very ill, she has a terminal illness, and the doctors are saying that, listen, she can go any day. Of course the Rabbanan will be moided to Rabbi Yehuda. We're not speaking about a scenario where there is taka de facto a reason to be concerned of a passing. We're speaking about normally that one's wife is well. She's going to pass away in the next 24 hours, that you're not chayish. So the Chachamim told Rabbi Yehuda, once you have to halachically be concerned about something that's highly unlikely, then why only one backup wife? Why not two backup wives? Why not three backup wives? Because maybe one will pass away, God forbid, and then the other one will also pass away. V'chulei. Amrulei imkei ein lo davar soif. Oh, so weiter shaper ka'amrulei Rabbi Yehuda is haguta kashe. So Rabbi Yehuda will answer, yes, I am chayish to something that's loy shchicha vis-a-vis tuma. But don't misunderstand me that I therefore am chayish to any most minute possibility. Even Rabbi Yehuda will say that there are degrees to possibilities. He says, L'misa chada chayshinan. Rabbi Yehuda acknowledges that misa is less of a possibility than tuma. Okay, so he's even more concerned. He takes into account even that which is less possible. But it's not a broad stroke, any less possible. No, Mida Chada is Chayish, relative to Misa Chada, that both wives will pass away. Lemisa the Tarta Loi Chayshinan. And now the Gemara wants to, before we go on to Rabbi Yehuda, the Rabbanan will hold, no, the train Chayshinan. If you take into account that one will die, then you have to take into account two that will die. That's why they challenged Rabbi Yehuda. And now the Gemara has a bomba kash against the Rabbanan. Then what did the Rabbanan saying? If you are already taking into account something, then you have to take into account all the way. What did the Rabbanan say? How many backup kahanim gedolim do you make? One? Why don't the Rabbanan challenge themselves? Why one? Why not have two backup kahanim gedolim? Why not have 10 backup kahanim gedolim? Tuma, something that you're more concerned about. The Chachamim's challenge to Rabbi Yehuda was, if you have to have one backup wife, then ein lo davar soif. So that refutes their own shita. They themselves don't subscribe to ein lo davar soif. V'haraya, the Rabbanan only have one backup Kohen Gadol, not more. They also don't hold to ein lo davar soif. Gavaldik. So Amalach Rabbanan, listen to this. Koydem kol, the Tuma is up to the Kohen. Don't forget, he's quarantined. No one is coming into him. He might have a keri. It's something you have a lot more ability to prevent yourself becoming tamei than a person has the ability preventing his wife from passing away. So based on the rule that a Kohen Gadol is zaris, he will make all of the efforts and steps necessary not to become tamei. Not going to happen. But again, weiter, if it's not going to happen, then why do we even need one backup Kohen Gadol? Lama maskinu loy Kohen achar. Now listen to this. Says the Gemara, you know how you make the Kohen Gadol even more conscientious and even more precautious not to become Tameh? You know how you do that? By telling the Kohen Gadol, listen, my friend, if you become Tameh, we have a backup. What did we learn at the end of the last daf? It's already an Ava. No one wants to have a tzara. No one wants to have a backup. The very fact that we appoint a backup Kohen Gadol makes him even more zaris, never to need the other Kohen Gadol. That's the psychology. Even the didn't like tzara, they make a rival. Is kolchchen the mizaris tvei. But you know what? If Taka, you would be concerned that he would become Tameh, for which you needed to have a backup. Ein lo davar soif. The Chachamim hold of this concept, Ein lo davar soif. Rabbi Yehuda doesn't hold of Ein lo davar soif. Rabbi Yehuda holds that we have to be concerned on one hand, even for things that are less plausible, which is the passing of one's wife. But only one wife, two wives, is it possible? Everything is possible. At kedei kach not. Now, based on this premise, the 10 steps are 10 steps and not 1,000 steps. So one thing let's make clear, that now with Rabbi Yehuda, there is a backup wife. Now when a man marries two wives, as will work out, there are 3 possibilities and not 4. I want to say that very clear. Guys, remember this, the klal, and everything will go easy. Aleph, I'm going to call this Aleph, A. A will be a man is married to 2 wives and none of them die, right? That's probably the most likely thing. B will be that the first wife will die, second one will live. C, that the second one will die and the first one will live. D, we don't halachically take into account. There's never a fear halachically that both will die. Remember that. Then everything becomes easy. So now the question is, and the answer will have to be, you have to have a wife. Wife means yes 1, not 0, but yes 1 and not 2. And again, based on the premise that he cannot marry her during Yom Kippur, either because it's prohibited, because you can't make a kinyan on Yom Kippur, or because technically you can't have a Kohen Gadol in middle of the Avodah. If, God forbid, his wife passes away, what will he do? He'll stop everything? He'll go out of the Kodesh Kachim, tell God 1 second, and go get married? Doesn't work. So how does the backup wife even help? Gewaldig. Says the Gemara, Mi sagele betakantoch, verstehen ich, Rabbi Yehuda, you're chayish that the wife will pass away. Okay, it's a chayish, but what's the solution? To get another wife. Beisay amar Rachmana, v'havlav beisayu. We're going to go through every step. No, the Havamina is, it's just a backup wife. It's a backup wife. Just like we had in the Reisha, a backup Kohen Gadol. We learned in the last daf, the backup Kohen Gadol was not done with the Shmoyna Begadim before Yom Kippur. Especially since we paskin like Rabbi Yossi, because that will make it very bad for him, that he'll never be able to do the Avodah B'chayev of the Rishon. A backup Kohen Gadol is, he's not made a Kohen Gadol, he's the one that if the Kohen Gadol becomes Tameh, on Yom Kippur will make him into a Kohen Gadol. So the premise is the same thing as with the wife, you're not married yet. So what, there's the backup. The first one dies, he's not married. The Gemara says it must be that he gives her Kedushin before Yom Kippur. He marries her. So the Gemara says, no. Kiddushin is not enough. That's another premise that will be challenged on Amud Beis. The other premise is, bias means married, nesuyin, not enough Kiddushin. How do we know that he has to be married? Because it says, v'chiper ba'ad beisoi. He brings atonement also for his bias, and the bias, our homes is our wives. Well, Kiddushin is not enough of a connection to have her called bias. Holav beisoi. So therefore, again, the answer has to be that the Rabbi Yehuda, he taka marries her. Not only Kedushin, but Nesuyin. But the Vaiter reflecting Gemara, Im kein havel shnei batim. And v'rachmana amar v'chiper ba'adoi u'ba'ad beisoi b'loshen yachid v'loi ba'ad shnei batim. Now, guys, I want you to know that we have 2 premises here that both of them will be challenged. Number 1 is that bias is only Nesuyin, not Kedushin. Number 2, that beisoi doesn't mean 2. We're gonna have problems with that, as we'll see in Amud Beis. But let's leave it all aside. Based on this premise, you have to be married to 1, not to 0, not to 2. So again, how does the backup help? It must be to Hadin Megadishla. He marries the backup wife. I'm going to call, guys, the backup wife as the second wife, okay, just to get clear. So he has the first wife, now he marries the second wife, but he divorces the second wife. Now, Everyone knows the kasha on that. But the Gemara is teaching us how to think. Like, let's go through the Seder. We're going to go through a series of deductions. If the Gemara would have wanted, it would have told us right away the answer at the end. But then we would not know how to think. So it must be he divorces her. The second to last, the last narrow line. Well, Vaited, if he divorces the second wife, then he's only married to one wife. Is Chodra Kashan L'Duchta. So answers the Gemara, he's married already to A. He marries wife B. Right, Rachel Leah. He was married to Rachel. He now marries Leah. And he has to give her a get. But it's a conditional get. And let's see how that will work. So the Medrash al Tanai, the Omar Lois, tells the second wife, this is your get, al minas shetamusi, on the condition that you die, that you second wife die. Which means that if the second wife dies, it means that retroactively, she was never married to him. So let me go through again the ABC. You'll understand, like Rashi says, of course this won't work. I know, of course it won't work. But let's compartmentalize. D is never a worry. We're not chayesh halachically that both wives will die. When a man enters Yom Kippur, married to two wives, the Kohen Gadol Rabbi Yehuda marries two wives. Before we get into the nuance of what the Tanai of the get is, there are three possibilities only. A, none of them will die. B, the first one will die. C, the second one will die. We are now addressing the issue of he's getting married to two. You can't have two wives. At least if C happens, then it's not only that from when she died is he no longer married to two wives. If C will happen, he gave her the get before Yom Kippur. If he gave her the get on the condition that it will go into effect if you die, so if she dies on Yom Kippur, it chaps that retroactively, who was he married to on Yom Kippur? Only to wife number one. So he's only married to one wife. So this Tanai would be good for the option C. Problem is, okay, what about, yes?
Can you do Kiddushin or Nisuin al Tanai, or is it only the get that you can do?
Very good. Should make it. We're going to learn this in Masechtas Kiddushin, God willing, that even though it's not practiced today, you can do Kiddushin al Tanai and you can do Gerushin al Tanai. Yes. We don't do it nowadays. But let's learn about the Ikar Adin. He's giving her Kiddushin. Kiddushin is not even enough. Kiddushin and Nisuin. And now he gives a get. And this first line addresses C. Once you have this in your mind, it's going to be easy, because people say, gives her a get on the condition that she dies. How does it resolve it? Because every scenario, we're going to look at A, B, C. A is no one dies. B, the first one dies. C, the second one dies. You can't be married to two wives. Give her a get.
We're talking about on Yom Kippur.
No, before Yom Kippur. He marries them, Kiddushin and Nisuim, before Yom Kippur, and he gives a get before Yom Kippur.
But we're chayish that they may die on Yom Kippur.
So don't say right? Don't say they again, because that's D. One will die, yeah.
One or the other.
Or none of them will die. Danny again. A, when I'm going to say A, guys, that's the code. A means none of them will die. That's the highest likely. No one will die. A, no one will die. B, the first one will die. C, the second one will die. Well, I don't like saying the word die, passing away. Okay. So this first white line addresses C. That if Taka, the second one, passes away, since he gave her a get, that goes into effect from before Yom Kippur. Almanash will pass away. If she passes away, retroactively, the get went into effect before Yom Kippur. So on Yom Kippur, he was only married to one wife, to the first wife. But you know what it doesn't address? It does not address, what about A? Right? What about if no one passes away? If the get only goes into effect if she doesn't pass away, then he's right to marry to two wives. The dilma loy maisa. What happens if neither of them pass away? Now, by the way, another detail. I just want to go back. That if he gives her a get almanasha tomusi, what happens if B or good? If B passes away, but C doesn't, because if B passes away, C will not, because we're not chayish to two deaths. The first line addresses B and C. Because if the first one passes away, then halachically the second one won't pass away. If the second one won't pass away, then she won't be divorced. So he's married to second wife. If the second one passes away, then he's only married to the first wife. But what does the first solution not address? Option A. Option A is neither of them will die. So there's no get, so he was married to Shtubatim, the
Rabbi,
yes.
If B passes away, so why does he need to get in the first place? Or he doesn't have any more like two wives? Why does he need to get like...
Because we don't know whether the first one will pass away or not. We don't know that. And being that we're not chayish for both of them to pass away, so if the only chayshinin was one or the other, if one will pass away, we just don't know which one, then this will be a good solution. Give the second one a get before Yom Kippur. Almanas, it goes into effect if you pass away. If the second passes away, halachically it means the first one didn't, he's married to the first. If the first one passes away, then halachically we're saying we're not concerned that the second one will pass away, so he's married to the second. Get used to that thinking. The problem is that this solution doesn't address option A, that we do take into account. What's option A?
Rabbi,
yes.
Rabbi, even you're only doing the conditional get with the second wife.
Yes.
Right?
So far.
So,
yes.
Okay, but so even if you say, well, if the first one passes away, well, when did she pass away? If she passed away in middle of Yom Kippur,
we're going to get that later. Danny, the Gemara is going to address this later in the Amit. That's another important wrinkle here that we have to take into account.
Okay.
People.
I was asking about them passing away. Well.
Okay, very good. Now, Rashi, in other words, what Rashi says here in the beginning, that every option until we come to the end has many questions on it. So people are worried, but there's this, all those questions, the Gemara is just teaching us how to think. And I'm telling you, the way it works is A, B, C. And we're constantly going, and there is a D, but halachically we're not concerned that both will pass away. So whenever there is a passing, it means the other one didn't. Once you get that, it's such an organized way of thinking. So the first answer addresses B and C. Problem is the second white line, it doesn't address A. Yes.
Rabbi, I'm sorry, just to clarify.
Yes.
Basically, it's like that you cannot have two wives, but you need to have two wives?
You cannot have no wives, and you cannot have two wives. You have to have one wife. That's the problem. That's the challenge. Now, the Chachamim have no challenge. The Chachamim say, we're not chayish that no one will pass away. He only has one wife. Rabbi Yehuda is chayish that one will pass away. Not two, but one. So what do you do? So let's go back.
Why don't we keep it simple, Rabbi Zion?
Yes.
And just say, just do the Almanas with Nisuyim. And just say Almanas, one passes away. You're Nisuyim, Lamafreya from every...
That's what Danny was trying to ask before, but since I don't know the answer, I managed to say I don't know the answer. I have to say I don't know. I'm sure that Yishayim speak about it.
Yes.
Okay, it's okay, it's good. Okay. Elo, the Amalo, Harei Zegiteich, Almanah Shaloi Tomusi, Punkt verkehrt. Oh, guys, this is so good. This is your get. You know what activates the get? Her not passing. How did we resolve that? We resolved A now. How did we resolve A? If neither passes away, he gives her a get, almanas, you don't pass away. We just focused on A. That resolves A, because if she does not pass away, then she is divorced, right? Then she is divorced. So if she's divorced, then he's only married to wife number one. Says the Gemara, hold on. And furthermore, and if the second one passes away, well, he's married to the first. So really, A and C are covered. Right? But, no, guys, C is the second one passing. So if the second one passes, okay, we're not chayish that both wives will pass. You're good. He's married to wife number one. I don't know if these charts help. Take the charts away. I think I'm going to explain it better. If the question was, if they both pass away, if they both live perfect, if they both live, the second gets Tanai was activated. The second's non-passing gets her divorced. What is not resolved? B. Okay, good. But what about V? Dilma, he loy mesa. B means the second one doesn't pass away. The first one passes away. She doesn't pass away. Her not passing, what does her not passing do? Her non-passing activates the get. So she's divorced. Right? The Havalagita, the High Gita. But what happens? Option B. What's my option B? Option B is that the first wife passes away. If the first wife passes away, wie was chapt? He's not married to any wife. The second one was divorced because she didn't pass away, and the first one passed away. And what happens if option B is an option? Rabbi Yehuda's chayish for one death. It's very organized. Oh, Elo, the Amalo. He gives a get to wife number 2. Narvas then, he tells her, Almana shetamus achas miken, that if one of you will pass away, so Mesaha kaimahach. Mesahach ha kaimaha. So this covers weiter B and C. But we're back to A. But v'dima loy maisa v'loy chadam inayu. If the get will only be activated if one will pass away, if neither pass away, which were for sure chayish, then none of them are divorced. And weiter v'havalo shnei batim. Void. Now, the whole concept of giving a woman a get, that it goes into effect when she dies, if you die, this concept is b'chlal not a valid condition. Void ki hai gavna mi hava gita. On the condition that you will never drink wine as long as I am alive, and the kasha will be from the or, the chayai actually will be removed in the Gemara and Gittin Daf Pei Gimel. That's focused solely on the next statement, v'chaychi. You are divorced on the condition that you may never drink wine as long as you are alive. That means that for the rest of her life, because of her first husband, she's limited in something. That's b'chlal not a get. Why not? Because the Torah calls a get krisus, a document of severance. Now, the concept of a Tanai means that until the Tanai is met, taka, she's not divorced. But there has to at least be the possibility that during her life, when the condition at least possibly could be met, she'll be completely severed. There won't be any limitation that's coming from the first husband. So any type of get that the Tanai means that if while she's living, she's still married or married for one detail, it's b'chlal not a get. So the options that we were saying that a get should go into effect if you will die is b'chlal not a valid condition. Because then the get only goes into effect. It means that during her life, there's no get yet. Only if it's kol yemei chaye ploini, if a man tells a woman, I'm giving you a get almanas, it's going to go into effect when someone else passes away. Since at least it's possible that other person will pass away in her lifetime, then it is krisus. And by the way, again, that's why if he tells his wife that you can't drink wine as long as I am alive, that taka is valid. The Gemara in Gittin says, so chaye is good. But the kasha is that all of these conditions of her dying is not a tanai. So let's go weiter. Elo, 3 lines from the bottom. On the condition that your friend, I'm going to say the first wife, doesn't pass away. So let's speak it out. Again, A, B, C. If the first wife doesn't pass away, the non-passing of the first activates the get, then migarsha the second. So then the Kohen Gadol is only married to the first. If the first wife passes away, guys, the get is activated if she doesn't pass away. If she does pass away, right? So then the get is reestablished. I'm sorry. Then the get is if she doesn't pass away. If she does pass away, then there's no get. The passing undoes the get. So who is he married to? He's married to the second. What's the problem, my friends? So what did we cover? We covered B and C again. We covered B and C. That whichever one passes away, he'll be married to one wife. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we covered A. No, we covered the first time, we covered A, B, C. Oh, Gavaldik. Okay, what's A? That no one will pass away. It's Gavaldik. What activates the get of the second? If the first one doesn't pass away. Option A is the first one doesn't pass away. Option A is that none of them pass away. But if the first one does not pass away, then the get of the second retroactively is a get. So if A happens, he's only married to the first. It's Gavaldik. What's B? B is that the first wife passed away. If the first one passes away, then the get of the second is not a get. He's married to the second. If if the option C is the second one passes away, so good, he's married to the first. He's married to the first, who cares? So this is the first time, it's not a condition if you'll pass, is if someone else will not pass. A, B, C is covered. Now we're going to add this new wrinkle, even in such a case. But when Yom Kippur began, wife number one will pass away. The moment wife number one passes away, what does it do? This empowers the get. When wife number one passes away, then the second one's get is no longer a get, because the get has to be only if the first one doesn't pass away. So if the first one will pass away, then he is married to the second. And by the way, after the first one passes away, he's only married to the second because the first one passed away. Here is where the Gemara speaks out, but before she passes away, he's married to two wives. How great is this Gemara? That the get to the high, that the second get is not a get. So until the first passing, he has two wives. And Ella, how do you resolve this? We have a Shulchan Aruch over here. This is Moededik. Ella, must be that there has to be another condition here. The Amar Law, again, all this is with the second wife. He tells the backup wife, again, he marries her, Kedushin, and Nesuyin, and he gives her a get all before Yom Kippur, and this is the condition. Number one is, Almenas Shetomus Chaverteich. That if the second wife dies, what is that? We're calling that option C. Right? If the second wife dies, then what? Then
if the first one dies.
That's a problem, because if the first one dies, then the second one is divorced. That's a kasha right away. So then again, then he's going to be working without any wife. In other words, if it's that almanas sheloi tamus chaverteich, then we got stuck with him doing an avodah with two wives. So it cannot be a condition that she will not die. The condition has to be almanas that the first wife does die. But now we have a problem. Let's speak Pashut. If that happens, Taka, if the first wife dies, then he's married to no wives. Oh, so how does that happen? The first wife is going to die. So now the second get was activated, and so we're leading up to something. Finally, it must be that he gives both of them a get. And now let's start using just names. First, second, Rachel and Leah. So the Megarish Lo Travayu. Lechada, to the first wife, to Rachel, he says, Areza Giteich Almanas Shaloi Tamus Chaverteich. This will be a get if Leah does not die. The death, the non-death of one, the life of one, right, brings upon the get of the other. And to the other wife, to the second wife, to Leah, he says, this has to happen on the condition that you don't enter the shul. You can't say to each one that your get will be a get if the other one doesn't die. Because option A will be the problem here. Because then both of them will not die, option A, and then he's married to no one. Right? If the get is activated through the non-death. So to the second wife, the condition has to be almanas, that you do not enter the Beis HaKnesses. Now guys, the Gemara doesn't speak it out, so let's speak it out. What's option number one? Option Aleph is neither dies. So let's halt up. If neither dies, then Rachel is divorced. Why is Rachel divorced? Because he gave to Rachel, he gave Rachel a get that will be activated if the other does not die. So in option A, that Leah did not die, neither did Rachel. So what? Rachel is divorced. Leah's not dying, but activated the get. So who is he married to? He's married to, this is an option A, he's married now to Leah. Now, he gave Leah a get. But Leah's get only goes into effect if she doesn't enter the Beis HaKnesses, which means that if she enters the Beis HaKnesses, she she will void her get. So if Rachel, if this case, what does Leah need to do? Leah needs to enter the shul. So Leah voided her get, and is no longer married to Rachel. Guys, we're good? So A is covered over here. But don't forget, A is only covered if Leah steps into the shul. We have to rely on her doing that. Because if Leah will not step into the shul, then she also will be divorced. Let's go to B, what we call B. B is that the first wife will die, that Rachel will die. Rachel is the first wife. And another thing, guys, if Rachel dies, it means Leah did not. We're never chayish to both deaths. Okay, so if Rachel dies, then Rachel is divorced all along. Why is Rachel divorced all along? Because he tells Rachel that I'm giving you a get, almanas, that your friend doesn't die. This is so gavaldik. Almanas, that your friend, if Rachel dies, halachically Leah lives, because we are never chayish to two deaths. So option B, by default, means that Leah doesn't die. Leah's non-death activates the get. So Rachel is divorced. Now, again, Leah will have to walk into a shul to void her get, because if she doesn't walk into a shul, then you got a problem. Then she's also divorced. Let's go now to option C. Let's speak it out. What's option number C? That Leah passes away. Second wife passes away. What happens when Leah passes away? It means that Rachel lives. So you should know that Leah's passing cancels Rachel's get, because Rachel, the first one, was given a white almanas that your friend will not pass away. So if Leah does pass away, then Rachel's get is cancelled. Gavaldik.
Question, Rabbi.
Yes.
If the first one passes away, why does she need a get? She's already dead.
Because that was the kasha that we had on the bottom of the Amid, that since they might pass away only in middle of the avodah. Very good, Kevan. So even though from now on she passed away, but until that passing, he was married to two wives. Here the beauty is that Rachel dying means Leah doesn't. That's what the Gemara doesn't even speak out, because they're not chayish to two deaths. Leah's non-death activates Rachel's get. Rachel's get was given before Yom Kippur. That's the beauty. Says the Gemara, let's go now inside. The Dilma, it's both option A and B only work, but we're vulnerable. If Leah will enter the shul, we don't like that option. We don't like that option, because if Leah won't enter the shul, then he has no wives. So, and he means Leah, she will not enter the Beis HaKnesses. Both gittin go into effect. Leah's life, right? Leah's wife makes the get a get. Rachel is not married. Leah didn't go into a shul, so her get is also a get. So the Gemara says, Ella, like this. Lachada, and to Rachel, to the first wife, he has to give a get to both. So far, so good. Same thing. Your get is activated by the non-death of Leah. Leah not dying means Rachel was divorced all along. Ulachada, and to Leah, he tells her, this is your get, not based on something that Leah will do, something that's the Kohen Gadol. Almanas she'ekones ani lebeis haknesses. And here's, if he enters the shul, then he activates the get. Now let's go through all the three options. First of all, options B and C, before both of them living, either one or the other, let's speak it out. If Rachel dies, let's halt up. If Rachel dies in middle of the avodah, the moment you say Rachel dying, since we're not chayish to two deaths, it means Leah lived. Leah's not dying activates the get of Rachel, which is good, right, Kevin? That means that even before he was not married to Rachel. Now he's married to Leah, but he gave her a get. But the get was only activated if the Kohen Gadol goes into the Beis HaKnesses in the shul. He just does nothing. So the Kohen Gadol does not step into the shul. So Leah's get is cancelled. So he's married to Leah. Option B. Now let's go to option C. We're going to leave 8 for a moment. The option C is that Leah passes away. Leah's death cancels Rachel's. Leah's death cancels Rachel's get. Beautiful. Cancel means he's married to Rachel. So he was only married to Rachel. He's not married to Leah. Now we're going to have the same kasha. The kasha will be that even though he's married to Rachel, even though now Leah died, we'll get to that in a moment. But until Leah passed away, he's married to two wives. So
he just go into a shul.
So that's what the Gemara is going to answer before we speak it out. Now, what's option number one? Let's go to option A. The Gemara doesn't have to speak it out, which is the biggest possibility. If none of them will pass away, so what does the Kohen Gadol do? The Kohen Gadol goes into shul. None of them passes away. He goes into shul. When he goes into shul, he activates the get that he gave to Leah before Yom Kippur. He's only married to one wife.
When does he go into shul?
No. If he goes into shul, then he gets divorced from the second wife.
I said good, Danny.
And the first one will also get divorced because the second one lived.
What activates the get is the non-death. If the second one lives, then Rachel's get is not activated, it's voided.
So then he'll have no wife, so he doesn't go into shul then.
No, Nachmal Danny. If both of them live, then the Kohen Gadol at any time in Yom Kippur will have to go into shul. Both of them live, so then Rachel's get is cancelled. He's married to Rachel, he's married to Leah. Go into shul and void and activate the get of Leah. In option A, all he needs to do is to go into shul.
When? At the end of the day?
Anytime.
Well, it would have to be the end of the day, because that way he makes sure that Rachel lived till the end of the day.
That's right.
So it has to be right at the end of Yom Kippur. He goes.
No. That's the Rabbi Chaim. That's where everyone gets tripped up. When one passes, the other one doesn't. That's the beauty of this whole sugya. There's no D. One passing, there can't be two deaths. We're not chayish to two deaths.
If he voids Leah's get, if he makes Leah's get work by entering a shul at 1 o'clock in the middle of the day.
You're right. Correct. What Danny's not happy. Why is Danny not happy?
1 second. The condition with wife number one is that you're divorced if the second wife does not die. In this case, we're talking about where she did not die. So he shouldn't enter if he enters the shul, then he has no wife, Rabbi. Because the first one is divorced because the second one didn't die. The second one's divorced because he walked into a shul.
Danny, the Gemara is going to speak about it in a moment. Okay, so we worked through B and C.
I'm saying in A, he just doesn't go into shul. The first wife gets divorced, and he's married to the second.
Correct. Okay, good. Okay, stand corrected. Very good. So now says the Gemara, hold on. What's the issue? That Dilma Maisa Chaverta Bepalga Davoida. Oh no, Rabbi Chaim, the Gemara says what you just said. That maybe Leah will pass away in middle. Right? What happens when Leah passes away in the middle? When Leah passes away in the middle, it means that Rachel is not divorced. It voided Rachel. If he didn't yet enter the Beis HaKnesses, then he's married to two wives until the passing. After the passing, he's only married to one wife. It's very good. If no one passes away...
But why wouldn't he then just be able to go into the Beis HaKnesses and retroactively?
So it's clear from the Gemara base, that's what the Rishonim speak about, that Ein Get La'achar Misa, that he'll have to enter the Beis HaKnesses before her passing. Once she passed away, we don't say that now we can go into the Beis HaKnesses and retroactively activate the get because she passed away. So Rabbi Avremel, it's very good over here. Well, Danny, thank for the correction. Well, in option A, he doesn't do anything. Not doing anything is great. The highest likelihood is that no one will pass away. No one passes away, he does nothing. Does nothing means that he's married to Leah. And Rachel automatically will be divorced because Leah didn't pass away. The only fear is that Leah will pass away, and until that he's married to two wives. So what do we do? So let's read it inside. Leah will pass away in middle of the avodah, and until then, beautiful. Says the Gemara, you know what we do? The moment Leah is about to pass away, then then he has to go into the Beis HaKnesses. It's mashma clear from the Gemara here that he has to do it before she passes away. The moment he enters the Beis HaKnesses, it voids the get of, it activates the get of Leah. He won't be divorced from Rachel, because the get of Rachel is only a get if Leah does not pass away. Here she passed away. So the passing of Leah voided the get to Rachel is Gavaldik. And now again, when he enters the Beis HaKnesses, Tahavalo Gita Lamafreya. Okay. That's it. That is the way it's done.
Rabbi, quick.
Go ahead, Aaron. Yeah.
If he gives her a get and she's holding the get, and it's conditional that the other one lives.
Yes.
And the other one currently is alive. She's now a free woman. How does he retroactive? How, if she now dies, how does he take away the get?
No, Aaron, yes. He marries both wives. He married Rachel, married Leah. When you give a get on condition, until the condition is met, the get is not activated. But if and when the condition is met, then it's activated retroactively, just to get the structure clear. In other words, until that's what Rabbi Chaim was saying before, until the end of Yom Kippur, we don't know what their status is. They're not free women because they were given a get on condition.
Okay. So the time is the end.
The time is the end. Very good.
Rabbi, I want to just point out that I guess we're doing this all just for the logic, but practically, if he was married to one woman, and then we're adding the second one just as like a backup.
Yep.
So shouldn't the conditions be the opposite? Meaning, because in the end, where does he want to be? He wants to be married to his original wife, not married to this second wife.
Danny, you're speaking like a happily married man. I'm happy asking that question. Yashar Koyach. Okay, and by the way, I could have worded the whole thing the opposite. Doesn't matter. I was the one that was saying it that way. Yeah, just a simple.
The condition of going into the shul, right? That should really be according for his first wife, and the other one.
Danny, you're probably right. Correct. Guys, the beauty here is, and especially on Amid Beis, it took me a while to chop that, is that the moment one dies, in that possibility, it means the other one didn't. That's why we began. That even Rabbi Yehuda, that's chayish, he doesn't say ein lo davar soif. It's beautiful. You know, this only worked because there's only A, B, and C to be worried about. There is no D. Okay, now, guys, we're good. The puzzle was solved. And Danny, thank you for that correction. Good. Now, there are two premises that brought about the whole challenge. Like, how do you know that he cannot be married to two wives? Who said that? Based on the premise, it says v'chiper ba'ad beisoy. Beisoy means one and not two. Asks the Gemara, is that true? No. Let's go to the dinim of Yibum, Parshas Kiseitze. Now, if Reuven is married, this is before Chedim the Rabbeinu Gershon. This is to be clear. Today, we do not marry two wives at the same time. God forbid. But before that, if a man is married to two, Reuven is married to two wives, and Reuven passes away, and he has no children, not from this wife, not from the other wife, not from a prior wife, right? V'zera ein lo, ayin lo, no kids, no descendants, no grandkids. So the din is that if Reuven leaves a brother or brothers, so the whole din of Yibum. No one says that if Reuven, who passed away, had two wives, there's no more din Yibum. But let's say that, because the whole din of Yibum has the pasuk about building base achiv. The whole parsha of Yibum uses bias b'lashon yachid. No one says by Yibum that if the man has two wives and then he passes away, there's no din Yibum. Yes, there is din Yibum with all the details. We'll learn in Masechta Yavamis. Not that, God forbid, you don't do Yibum with both wives, but you have to do Yibum with one wife, right? You build one bias. So, the last narrow line, that if bias teaches us only one house and not two, then why don't we say, and no one says it, that that if Reuven is married to two wives and he passes away, then there's Bechlal no din of Yibum. Then the original erva of Eshes Achav goes into effect. No one says that. So answers the Gemara, the premise is correct. Bias means one wife. But since in the Parsha and Kiseitze, the Torah repeats the word Yevimtoi twice, the reason why God does it is to be marba. Even if a man is married to more than one wife, then still the Parsha of Yibum is activated. Gavaldik. Number two, another premise. The premise was, how did we begin? Right, that Kedushin is not enough. Why isn't Kedushin enough? Because it says Beisoy. Beisoy means married. Oh yeah? that he has to be fully married for his wife to be considered his house. Arusa like this Yabim, same kasha. If Reuven only did kedushin with his halachic engaged wife, mikudeshes, the din is that if Reuven passes away, Shimon has to do yibam or chalitza. The dinim of yibam are activated. Why? Why again? The whole parsha there says, what does she say if she does chalitza? He says, Kacha ya'asal ish asher lo yivna es beis achiv. Right? Shouldn't that preclude arusa? Answers the Gemara, you're right. Bias means nesuyin. Yibum is different because there the pasuk writes, these are the words, Lo yisihiya eshes hameis chutza leishzar. Now the pshat is that the eshes hameis without the yibum or chalitza is not free to marry ishzar. But the diuk, the drush here is that if the eshes hameis is only chutza, she's not fully married, she's only mikudeshes. Even there, loisia, she should not go leishzar. Guys, we concluded the sugya. We have time, so let us go now into the dinim of aninus, which is a very simple gemara. Says whoever is, please move. Baruch Hashem. Okay, says the Gemara, Tanach Rabbanan. Changing topics. Kohen Gadol, even as an oinan, does the avodah. Says the Brayser, Kohen Gadol. Makriv, even as an oinan. But even though we are lenient by the Kohen Gadol, but he may not eat kachim. And that's really, right, the underlying parsha over there by the chatos of Rosh Chodesh, the seir chatos that Aaron HaKohen burnt, because they eating you can't. Rabbi Yehuda says words that we don't understand. The whole day, was meant kol hayoim. What is Rabbi Yehuda saying? My kol
Rabbi, just to clarify again, what is the hoina? So
Shlomo, we spoke this out in the intro. When someone's 7 close relatives passes away, so generally the person is in mourning, but there are different phases of mourning. The first phase, which is called acute mourning, B'lashon HaKodesh, B'lashon of Toides, aninus, he's an oinen. Now, during the time of aninus, a Kohen Gadol may not do the avodah. When is the time of the aninus? We also spoke this about in the intro. There's a big machlokes. How far does the time of aninus go until? It's not the whole shiva. We are going to be following those who hold that aninus biblically is only on the day of the passing, which is what happened when Nadav and Avihu tragically, right, were taken by Hashem. Everyone was an oinen. And the avodah was done. A Kohen Gadol does the avodah by ninus, but he can't eat. Rabbi Yehuda says kol hayoim. So what does kol hayoim mean? So we're going to have two approaches. My kol hayoim, Omar Rava, I'll tell you. You know what kol hayoim means? The Tanach didn't say that the Kohen Gadol should do the avodah. The Tanach said that he may do the avodah. Rabbi Yehuda is even more lenient. Rabbi Yehuda is saying not only is it permissible, but we advocate for him to do the avodah. We bring him from his house. Look inside the Rashi. Mitzvah hu sheyiviyu lemigdash la'avid kol hayoim. Dafke kedei lefakeach tzaroy. Here we want the Kohen Gadol not to be focused on his pain. Make him do the avodah, which would mean that Rabbi Yehuda is very lenient. Not only may he, but he should. Gemara, Abaya and Rava. Abaya says it can be. Only Abaya to Rava, 1 second. It's so inconsistent. Hashta, according we know, to the same Tana Rabbi Yehuda, regarding a Kohen Hedyot. A Kohen Hedyot that, God forbid, if he becomes a Oinan, we know Kohen Hedyot cannot do the Avodah. But what happens if he's already in middle of an Avodah? Do we interrupt that Avodah? Machlokes Tanoim. You know who's the Machmir? Rabbi Yehuda. It's going to chap very not mistaber that Rabbi Yehuda by the Kohen Hedyot is the most machmir. He should be the most lenient by the Kohen Gadol. Rabbi Yehuda holds that a Kohen Hedyot not only may he never start, but we're so machmir, even afukim afkinalei, we dismiss him in middle. As we learned in a Braisa, guys, 3 lines before the bottom of the Amid, that hoyo oimeru makriv agam mizbeach, and during the avodah v'shama shemeis leimeis. So that Rabbi Yehuda holds maniach avodos v'yotzei de Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is the one that is more lenient. So if Rabbi Yehuda is that much machmer by the Kohen Hedyot, so it doesn't make sense that the meaning of the Braisa would be that Rabbi Yehuda is even more lenient by the Kohen Gadol. That my sinal emitek we dafka bring him. Ella, therefore, it's not that Abaye gave a new answer, but Rava accepted that question of Abaye, and Rava another take, another attempt, which will stand how to interpret the Braisa. Ella Amar Rava, then when the Rebbe Yehuda and the Braisa said the words Kol Hayoim Daf Yudalid Loimer. Oh no, he may not work. She'enoi oived Kol Hayoim. Wow. Look inside Rashi. Loimer she'enoi oived Kol Hayoim ad halayla. Because balayla, if the Kohen Gadol who's taka and oinen miderabanan according to our sheet and bala haktir chalav emurim, then yaktir. Now why not? Why not? Hold on, guys. The Torah says that a Kohen Gadol could do the avodah as an oinen. So Rabbi Yehuda is coming with the rabbinic. And why would the Chachamim say that he should not do it? Because gezeira shema yoichal. As we learned in Tanach, everyone holds that a Kohen Gadol cannot eat kachim biblically. So Rabbi Yehuda says, since you can't eat, you know what? If you're going to do the avodah, you might end up eating. Now, again, not to get into again all the pratim, our sugya is following the understanding that Rabbi Yehuda holds that there is no biblical aninos at night. There is rabbinic aninos at night. But you don't make exeda l'gzeda. If the isur of the Kohen Gadol, if the isur of aninos by light is only midrabanan, you're not going to build another gezeit on top of that. But since the isur of eating psar kachim biyoim on the Kohen Gadol is biblical because he's an oinen bayoim, even though Rabbi Yehuda agrees with the Tanach in principle that the Kohen Gadol was given by God a dispensation and he may do the avodah, Rabbi Yehuda is taka being more machmer. Don't do it. Why? Gezeit Shema Yoichel. Amalei Rav Ada bar Ahava l'Rava. Hold on. Umi Gaza Rabbi Yehuda Shema Yoichel. Now you'll understand why did we bring this in over here. It's mamish connected to the whole sugya. Did we not learn in our Mishnah that Rabbi Yehuda is the one that says Af Isha Cheres Maskinulay, that you have to have a backup wife? Shema Thomas Ishtay, maybe his original wife will pass away. Now we got a problem. Ve'i Maisa Ishtay. Now, okay, so what will happen? That if his wife passes away, and here it's good, but then he said, the first wife passes away, he was taka married to her, so then you use the backup wife. Ovid avoida. My friend, is he not an oinon? He's an oinon. Eloma, you can do the avoida. Why? Because an oinon can do the avoida. But if Rabbi Yehuda holds, Rabbi Yehuda, that there's a derabanan, shema yoichal, fully goes Rabbi Yehuda, shema yoichal, gavaldik. So Amalei, Amalei, hachi hashtem, hasam, kivin the Yom Kippurim hu the kula ami loika achle. No one is eating on Yom Kippur. So hunami liyasel mechal. But in the case that we are discussing, since kula almi achle, so hunami asel mechal. You know why we're bringing it down? This is obvious. The next lines are huge. But now that we had this whole back and forth, what did we establish? That the only way the backup Kohen Gadol works, it must be, is by making two gittin on conditions, in a way that if the one who passed away, what was the kasha we had at the bottom of Yud Gimel Amud Aleph? That the one who passed away, taka, after she passes away, he's only married to one wife. But until she passes away, he's married to two wives. And the only solution is that when the one who passed away, something will be enacted that lemafreya, she was never married. If she was never married, that's the beauty here. Then, b'chlal, what's the issue? He's not an oinen. He's not an oinen. You're only an oinen. Not you. No one should be an oinen. A person is an oinen, God forbid, on the day that his wife passes away. But we just established that whenever there is a passing, there was something said, there was an instrument, there was a clause, there was a way of halachically figuring out that they were never married to begin with before Yom Kippur. Gvaldik. B'chlal, there's no aninus, because he already divorced her and the divorce goes retroactive. So here is the chiddush of the Gemara. My friends, the concept of a Kohen Gadol not being allowed to eat ba'aninus is not because halachically he's an oinen. No! Whenever we eat kachim, the Torah says the words l'cha, nisatim, lemashcha. Lemashcha normally means to anoint. We're going to learn this a lot on kachim. It means that kachim have to be eaten the way kings eat. You know how kings eat? They eat with joy. When a yid is, God forbid, his wife passed away, even if Halachically, she was already divorced before. He's going to feel aninos. He's going to feel sadness. The sadness is what disallows him to eat. Gavaldik. Fragt answers the Gemara. But why do you think itrudai mi loy mitrid? Is he not preoccupied with the sadness? Of course he is. His wife passed away. So you figured out technically, halachically, she was divorced before Yom Kippur. But he was married to her all these years. He's going to feel sadness. So therefore, he's not allowed to eat. Eloma, Rabbi Yehuda is not going to be chay. She might eat it, because no one eats on Yom Kippur. Gavaldik, to be continued.